out those members of the public.
I think it's kind of nice to have somebody from the judiciary to be part of that. Well, anyway, on the judiciary, you mentioned family court, probate court. What is family court and what is probate court, so we tell our viewers?
Okay. That whole scene between probate and family court arose probably back in 1997. Okay. We've always had probate courts. The Constitution requires one probate court in each county, or one probate judge in each county.
Okay.
So some counties have multiple probate judges. Saginaw, we happen to have two, myself and Judge Faye Harrison. We're both elected probate judges, which means we're responsible for what they call decedent's estates. So
decedent's estates?
Decedents. Someone that dies is called a decedent.
Okay.
So that person, when they die, usually has a will, or they have a trust, or if they don't, they still will that's in statute where their property would pass by virtue of law. So the probate judge is responsible for dealing with the estates of people who have died, determining their rights under wills, determining their rights under trust, and we also are responsible for guardianships and conservatorships in our court, which is a whole another area. A guardian is a person who looks over a person. For instance, if we have a child who is developmentally disabled, they need a guardian once they turn 18. If there's a minor with no parent, we need a guardian for that minor. If our parents happen to become stricken with dementia or Alzheimer's or strokes, or a younger person, they need a guardian to take care of them. And then they need a conservator, who is a person that takes care of their money. Generally,
they may not be the same person.
No, generally they're the same person. We'll appoint somebody as guardian and conservator of the estate of so-and-so, but sometimes they can't agree on who's better at handling the money, where one family member might be good at money, one might be better at handling the person, so we name two different people. So, and that's, we do quite a bit of those. We probably do about 600 of those a year in Saginaw County. And that takes up Tuesdays and Wednesdays we deal with guardians and conservators. Also in the probate court, we take care of the mentally ill, and those are people that have a mental illness and are diagnosed as such. And probate judges are required to do the involuntary hearings, which means I have a hearing to determine whether or not they are mentally ill, and if they are, to provide the appropriate placement for them to get their treatment.
How does that go? How's that sort of decision made?
Well, what happens generally is a family member, an interested person, a police officer, sees this person in the community and realizes they have a problem with maybe bathing, maybe they've done something dangerous like try to stab a police officer, maybe they're not dressing properly and walking around the streets homeless, and they file a petition in the probate court. Well, that petition is then acted upon me by saying, I think this person, from the description and the sworn statements, does need to have some help.
Who can file that petition?
Anybody can file that petition.
So I could file it?
You could file that petition. And I have to review that petition and sometimes take testimony to see if the facts that you put in that petition are true. If I think that those facts are true and that they might be a danger to themselves or others, then I'll sign a pickup order, which means the police will then go and pick that person up and bring them into what we have in Saginaw, a very great crisis intervention unit at Covenant. And we have a team there that evaluates these people, and they're examined by an emergency room physician who determines whether or not they think they're mentally ill, and a psychologist. And if they have 2 positive certifications, then they will keep them at Health Source Saginaw until we can have a hearing, which is usually within 5 to 7 days. And then I have a hearing in my courtroom and determine through testimony of a psychiatrist or a psychologist and the witness that they have a mental illness, and then I decide that they do or don't have a mental illness, and then I prescribe the hospital where they're to get their treatment and for how long.
Oh, for how long? So this, after you make the decision that somebody needs to be hospitalized, then after the time in the hospital is done, let's say it's a week or 2 or whatever, can it be that kind of a time frame?
And generally that's what it is.
Then what happens after that? Do they come back to you to demonstrate they're now better?
Well, what happens is the first time they're picked up, we have what we have, a 60, 90-day order. So I can put them on a 90-day order, which means they have up to 60 days of hospitalization if they need it, and then they have 90 days outpatient treatment.
I see.
If after that 90 days they don't need any more treatment, then the order expires and they go get their voluntary medicine or whatever they might need, therapy. If the people think they need, their treatment team thinks they need more than 90 days. They come back for a second order, which then is a year. And that year continues year by year if they need it. Generally, they go to the hospital initially for anywhere from 2 to 7 days, and then they're released for outpatient treatment.
Who is responsible for, paying for them being in the hospital, and then after they're done, then who's responsible for their outpatient care?
You and I.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the taxpayers pay that. Community mental health, there's a community mental health in every county. And you have the Department of Mental Health, that you deal with all the time.
Sure.
And it is a huge, huge expense. You're talking, I think Saginaw County gives $1 million a year to our local community mental health. And of course the state and through Medicaid and other sources get some other funds. But as with everything else, there isn't enough money to take care of all the people that need help.
So what day of the week do you do these sorts of things?
I do these on Wednesdays, in fact.
So 2 days on probate, and 1 day on, I guess, mental health issues and
I consider
sanities?
that probate.
That's part of
because it's part of probate.
Okay.
Yeah. That takes up the guardianships and conservatorships, dealing with estates and trust, dealing with the mentally ill, are all part of probate.
Okay.
We also do things like protective orders. We do where somebody might need a protective order to put money away for a minor. We deal with
I do want to talk
all kinds
to
of
those
miscellaneous
but I'm
problems.
still back to the idea of family court. Now, what is family court? How is that different from what we just talked about? What Judge McGraw is there doing family court today?
All right. So when they talk about family court, they see Judge McGraw dealing with paternity cases, custody cases, parenting time cases, and divorces with or without children. So going back to the very beginning, all this kind of starts with a paternity case.
Sure.
Or somebody, we have in the non-divorce area, we have the paternity, parenting time, and custody issues, and child support.
Yeah.
So that's the big issues that all of the circuit judges and the 2 probate judges deal with. We're all assigned as a family court judge. And I am the presiding judge of the family division of the circuit court.
Sure.
So that oversees the front of the court also. And Judge Kazmarek, our chief circuit judge, is in charge of the front of the court as chief circuit judge. So what happens is, generally on Mondays, I do the paternity cases. And what happens is if there's a unwed mother who has a child and she is collecting state benefits for the child, the state wants to know and has an interest in who the dad is, so that that father can be named and be responsible instead of you and I. So the state usually finds out, asks the woman who the father is, checks with the father. He either can't be found or denies it. And the prosecutor brings in, anywhere from 5 to 40 people on a Monday to say, are you...
really? 40?
Oh,
yeah. Be 40 people?
Yeah, we can do that every week. It's not a nice thing to know that you have that many unwed mothers out there, and fathers aren't taking responsibility sometimes. But we have to find who the father is, and each hearing takes relatively a minute to find out that the mother will acknowledge that she does have a baby, that so-and-so is the father, that she didn't have sex with anybody else during that time, and she's sure he's the father, and usually the father doesn't show up, and he's defaulted by meaning because you didn't show up, I'm making a finding that you are the dad. Now if they come in later and say, I didn't get notice or I didn't know about it, we do DNA. And DNA today is very simple. It's not like it used to be where they used to have to scrape things and find blood, big piles of blood to get DNA. Nowadays, little packets come about this big with Q-tips in them. And the prosecutor and staff can even do this now, where they do what they call a buccal swab, reaching into the mouth and swabbing the mouth of the mother, the father, and the baby, put it in an envelope, mail it to Lansing, and we find out relatively quick whether they're the father or not.
Really? How quick does the turnaround of that?
Turnaround's probably about 2 months.
I see.
And so if they want to contest that, we do the DNA, and I order DNA because I'd rather know right up front who the father is, so we don't have these situations that you hear the horror stories about, where a father finds out when the child's 8 that he's not the biological father and just abandons the child, or you have all this psychological problems because of that.
For the child, too.
In fact, I think there's a bill, either the House or the Senate, where they've asked that be a mandatory test now with unwed mothers.
Well, would you support that?
I would support